non-painful to do so, and like I said, within a few treatments. There are other things to consider when you have acid reflux. Oh, if you lay flat in your bed and you have acid reflux, I know when I was pregnant, burn, 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 burn. You gotta sit in a little bit of an, or not sit, but lay down with a little bit of an incline. A couple of pillows behind you to raise you up a little bit, or if you've got one of those expensive beds that can tilt you up a little bit, that can keep that flow from happening when you lay down. Smoking really stimulates acid reflux, and the nicotine combinations just cause that to get really acidic. In addition, smoking causes the body to become acidic as well. Lose weight if you're obese. And I know everybody says, Heike, that's easier said than done. But if this is a problem that bothers you a lot, you'll lose the weight. Because seriously, this stomach acids, if you do have this issue and you do nothing about it, which absolutely the doctors are right, you should do something about it, you need to drop the weight. Otherwise, you can develop esophageal or stomach cancers, because this does burn away these linings, and if you don't have good nutrition, these linings don't repair themselves and the cells will mutate and become precancer or cancerous. So you have to address this issue. I'm of the opinion not with medications, and there are other means you should always try first, as I discussed earlier. I think when you're evaluating and when you go into your healthcare professional and you start to talk about this acid reflux issue, a lot of questions should be asked. There's certain testings, hormonal testings, enzyme testings, liver function testings, pancreatic. I think those are all issues that you should discuss with your doctor as well, in order to get the testing that could diagnose maybe a potential issue. There are scoping procedures where they can check and see what kind of damage has occurred. Once again, don't ignore this issue. It can turn into something bigger. Anyway, next we're going to be moving on. I'm going to show you a couple of reflexology exercises and a couple a pressure point that can help you with this acid reflux. Thank you. Hi, welcome to the fitness portion of our show, and I'm going to show you a couple of exercises, or I should say massages, that can help you with your hiatal hernia and with acid reflux. First, there's a pressure point right here. You feel your rib cage, and I don't know if you've ever had CPR, you feel that little break right there. Well, your stomach is right down below that cavity. And when you're experiencing like that burning, or the food's coming back up, or even after a meal, particularly if I've eaten a high acid meal, this, I can't remember, but either I had a oriental medicine doctor show me this or a chiropractor, and it's been years ago, and sometimes you forget things and then you remember them again. You make a fist, push downward, trying to get that hernia back in again and close that valve in a downward fashion. And I know that exercise has helped me when I remember to do it quite often. Now, there's also a type of medicine called reflexology. And our nice studio guys are going to put the graphic on, because I want you to have an idea. There's different points on the foot that you can massage or hold that can help stimulate or help areas where you're having a problem. And I have my handy dandy foot out here, and if we look on there, we've got an area right in the center of our foot, a little bit below the bone, where we can hold and kind of massage, or you can get your honey to hold and massage it for you, which is even better. And just kind of hold it and massage that area. And your pancreas is just a little bit lower, pancreatic enzymes. Kind of just hold it and massage it really well. And see if maybe that doesn't help with your digestion and alleviate some of your symptoms. Next, we're going to be moving on to the research portion of our show. Thank you. Hi, welcome to the research portion of our show, and with us today is Ralph Turchiano. Ralph? And
thank you for that intro. Well, speaking of H. pylori, in stomach ulcers, Well, an interesting study came out of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology along with Beth Israel Medical Center in regards to a unique amino acid and its effect on that nasty bug called H. pylori. The amino acid, glutamine. What they discovered about H. pylori, or kind of knew for a while, was this. H. pylori erodes the mucus lining cells of the stomach, intestinal tract, and so on and so forth by the production of ammonia. By doing this, it damages cells on a whole wide level. Well, here comes glutamine. Glutamine had one unique effect, which they discovered was pretty phenomenal. Glutamine literally detoxified the ammonia. And not only that, they said, quote unquote, our work demonstrated that the damaging effects of ammonia on gastric cells could be reversed completely by the administration of L-glutamine, the doctor said. The amino acid stimulated ammonia detoxification in the stomach as it does in the liver. So that effective concentration of ammonia was reduced, thereby blocking cell damage. Those of you with ulcers, those with maybe even some liver conditions where you build up a little bit of ammonia, really look at L-glutamine. Safe, effective, real easy to find. Pretty good stuff outside of everything out there. Now we go to the bird flu. Well, we'd like to jump from flu to flu and virus to virus, like it's some sort of new movie or movie star going out there. We all want to vaccinate against it or do whatever we can. But we discovered one interesting thing about the bird flu, specifically H1N1. And this came out of the Imperial College and the University of North Carolina. The bird flu cannot survive in the nose. Why is that important? Because the nose is usually the first place for infection where the virus can begin to grow. Why? Simple. The temperature of the stomach where the birds usually catch the flu is about 40 degrees Celsius. The temperature in the nose of a regular human is 32 degrees Celsius. Bottom line is the nose where it needs to grow, it can't. It's too cold. So, good news for those which are a little bit paranoid about that bird flu. Unless you've got a really hot nose, it's not going anywhere. And those for us which are on, or I should say, those people that are doing chemo. Good news in regard to nausea, something which has been confirmed that we've known for quite some time. And this came out of the University of Rochester Medical Center. It's about ginger. Something simple you can find just about any place also. Why is it important? Because those people who are going through chemotherapy frequently talk about nausea. Well, this little substance, ginger, at about a dosage of about 1.5 grams given 3 days prior and 3 days after, reduced the incidence of nausea in those chemo patients by 40%. Simple, safe, effective. Definitely worth a trip to get if you know anybody doing any sort of medical treatments. Of course, check with your doctor ahead of time. We're not aware of it interfering with any chemo drugs, but still, play it safe and ask. Now we go for the next big star of viruses and flus which are out there for quite some time. This is kind of interesting. This goes back to SARS. Remember SARS that were out there? Severe acute respiratory syndrome? Well, an interesting discovery. This one comes from algae. The word from this is called glyphosate, otherwise GRFT for short. What they discovered through the American Thoracic Society, and they announced this at the 105th conference in San Diego, or I should say will be announced on May 29th, is a protein or lectin from algae called glyphosate had this effect on SARS when mice were affected. It had the mice that got the algae that had SARS had a 100% survival rate exposure to the SARS itself. So when exposed, 100% of the mice that got the algae lectin I should say, survived, compared to only 30% of those that did not get that algae lectin, called glyphosate. What they also discovered was this, that a lot of the side effects, the weight loss, the necrosis of the lung tissue from the bronchitis and everything else that occurred, did not happen in those mice which were given this algae lectin. Very simple, incredible stuff out there. So SARS comes back in the news, real simple stuff. What they also discovered this, is this is how it worked. The antiviral effects happened by altering the shape of the sugar molecules that line the virus envelope, preventing it from basically replicating itself. Simple, neat, one major virus, don't have to worry about it anymore. Actually, not two. I apologize. Now, genetics. 18th century, there was a guy by the name of Jean-Baptiste Lamarck. Now, I don't want to get too much into basically science in regards to this, but this guy predated Darwin. But he got shut down. Why? Because he believed you transfer genetics through cells, not just DNA. So he got thrown out of your classes. He was not taught anymore, basically shunned. And what discovered was this: that's not true. You do transfer your traits down from generation to generation through cells and DNA also. In fact, how much so? Let's give them an example. When working with flies, they found out when they exposed fruit flies to certain chemicals that the damaging effects of that chemical exposure just once had effects for 13 generations afterwards. Outside of that, they found out when they gave mice a chemical that affected the pregnancy of rats, it went on for generations upon generations upon generations. So, something to think about when considering your health and chemical exposure. It's just not your children, but it's your children's 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 indefinitely. You begin to change your entire lineage by what you do now. Something to think about. Also, outside of that, we look from the Department of Family Medicine, Medical University of South Carolina. They compared our population to the population it was about 3 years ago. And this is the data they came up with in regards to our health. We are getting sicker. Why? Let's give you a couple ideas. Well, they looked at adults between the age of 40 to 74 years of age. They found out that our body masses had increased from 28% to 36%, meaning we're getting fatter. After that, our physical activity went from 12 times a month to much less. So most people aren't even active 12 times a month. In fact, the only people that are active 12 times a month, only 43% of our population, I should say. Smoking rates have not changed at all. All this anti-smoking campaign, these taxes, every attempt for every sick politician out there to do social engineering had zero impact out of all these years. Eating your fruits and vegetables. Well, back in the 1980, between 1994, where you see 5 or more fruits and vegetables, 42% of us did. Now, less than 26% of us get 5 servings of fruits and vegetables any longer. Alcohol use, up there. From 40 to 51% of our population is now doing moderate alcohol use on a daily basis. And the number of people adhering to all 5 healthy traits, simple traits, have went down from 15% in 1994 to only 8% in year 2006. Outside of that, let me finish up with came out the American Thoracic Society in San Diego in regards to the flu vaccine. It was basically, the article started out in regards to generally asthma. What they discovered was this: asthmatic kids and non-asthmatic kids, those that got the flu vaccine were 3 times more likely to be hospitalized than those that did not. The Centers for Disease Control really has to relook at their policies and forcing these things upon these kids if there's no good science behind it. Well, thank you very much. That's the report.
Thank you very much, Ralph. We really appreciate your information. Once again, we hope you research further, pay attention to your health. Thank you for joining our show.